we go. Woohoo, we're back.
Happy New Year.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
It is 2026, and we were just talking backstage about Renee's hair. And the picture in our intro has your old hair.
I know. And actually, that hair was quite longer than what I had it completely buzz cutted. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that I like the feeling of hair on my neck. Like, it's so weird to have hair again.
Yeah. But you know what?
Messy.
Like you were explaining.
I have these.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I like to wear it down some, because you probably remember, Lynn. I mean, my hair was a lot shorter too.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my intro picture, you can see where my hair was a lot shorter. And
oh, yeah.
So what happened was I just went for a long time without getting my hair cut. And then it got to the point where, it was long enough to where I could put it behind my ears. So as long as I can either do that or put it up in something, then so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna let it grow.
I need a haircut. I really do need a haircut. But I know, Renee, you were explaining to us behind the scenes that, your long hair is now because you have the strength to raise your arms and wash it. So it's good that that's a victory.
And it looks so cute.
It does look cute.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's definitely gay. I didn't realize how much gray hair I had. Until it started growing out, because when your hair is buzz cut, you didn't know it was gray. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened to me?
I've got a streak, a gray streak that's always right here. A friend of mine calls it my Tulsi Gabbard streak. But you can see right there how gray that is. But I kind of think it's cool. So I do get my hair touched up. I'm vain. I get like some highlights put in it, but I tell them to leave my streak alone because I like it. So.
Well, I think I had a little bit of gray around the edges, but I think it may not be there anymore since I've been carnivore.
It's weird because like I had more gray like throughout, but for some reason, like most of my gray, I mean, I still have some, but that one streak is basically the main gray that I have left.
Yeah. Well, if you look at Rancher Maggie up in Canada that we filmed for the documentary, she's in her now, like, is she 84 now? Blonde hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm hopeful that I'll be able to not have gray. So that would be awesome.
Yeah. And I read something this week that said that when you lower your cortisol levels, a lot of people who had gray hair actually get their pigment back and their gray hair goes away.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's definitely happened to me. So we have 4 lifer. Way too wide. I'm not sure what that is. What is this? Good question. We are some science nerds, and we are going through, I'm glad you asked. We are going through this medical textbook. It is I have my thing blurred out because I'm at my sister's house right now, but this is a medical textbook. It is called Ketogenic, The Science of Therapeutic Carbohydrate Restriction in Human Health. And if you're a science nerd and you want to learn about the ketogenic diet, this is the place to be. Now, unlike a book club, we don't read ahead. So we are like really nerdy. We discuss as we go. And so we are on the 3rd chapter, which is the chapter on endocrine.
Hey, folks, we got questions and we've got answers. It's time for mail.
Oh, sorry. My life is going crazy here.
Yes. Yes. He says, oh, that makes sense. I'm failing science. Well, we don't know if we're passing or not, but we definitely try. So
and we have fun.
Yeah, we have fun. And for those of you who don't know, if you did catch our intro, I am a retired nurse. I had to retire medically because I have mast cell activation syndrome. I have healed myself, lost about 140 pounds on a carnivore diet. Renee is a nurse. She had to retire from nursing because of a serious neurological autoimmune disease, which she has healed, and she can walk again. Carrie is a data analyst. Carrie is doing carnivore because she watched her mother with type 2 diabetes and wants to prevent that. So we have all different reasons for eating this way. So, and we are not like hardcore, like if you don't eat carnivore and you're not in the carnivore club, we're going to boot you out. So that's not the case, but we want to learn. So, okay, you guys ready to go? We left off. Oh, I think I got the wrong tab here. I am working on Nutrition Network course. So now I've got all these notes. I'm back in chapter 2, looking at some of the old stuff that we covered and taking notes because I'm working on becoming a metabolic health practitioner.
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of work. Okay.
So how long do you think it's going to take you to do that?
So we're going to be probably half a year. So we're going to be finishing up. We're working on coursework right now to finish up all of the preliminary courses before we get into the real intensive portion, which starts in February, like mid-February. And that goes for 4 months. And that's with the Nutrition Network. And then all of that work will transfer over to the Society for Metabolic Health Practitioners to fulfill their coursework requirement. But then we have to get 60 CMEs, continuing education, in order to actually get accredited through them. So that part of it probably is going to take the full year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it depends on if I don't think the Nutrition Network courses count for the CMEs. So I'm going to be studying a lot this year. So, okay. So we are on the section on type 1 diabetes. I happen to now know who Neville Wellington is because he's one of my lecturers through the Nutrition Network. So when I'm looking at the titles and the authors here, it's like they produced. Okay, so the Nutrition Network, this is their textbook. They're the ones that made this textbook. So that's who I'm going through for the coursework.
Oh, now that's amazing. I don't think I knew that, or if you told me, I forgot.
Oh yeah, this is their baby is this textbook. And so as I'm going through, now it's like I'm actually, these people that authored these sections, they're the lecturers in my course. So it's like, oh my gosh, I know who this is now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty
awesome.
Yeah, it's
lecture my courses.
Pardon me?
I didn't have my lectures through my courses.
Oh, really? Would you have to do a ton of reading?
And did a lot of it. But I mean, other than him, everybody, I didn't know anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I know some of them. And okay, so let's see. Is this just for ladies? No, of course not. Period. Girly love our strong queens. We're trying, that's for sure. But no, in fact, we have men in the chat all the time. And we'd love to hear, as we dig into the material, we would love to hear your thoughts and feedback, because we're going to read and discuss. And we love to get feedback in the chat because we're trying to figure this out too as we go. This, like I said, this is a medical textbook. And so even though 2 of us are nurses, it can be kind of high level. So.
And we get it. And I ask a lot of questions. So, anybody who's watching or in the chat and they are afraid they're not going to understand something. I mean, I consider myself to be a fairly sharp person. However, I certainly don't have a medical background. And I'm very curious.
You're smart and you're curious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then get into then we get into discussion about it. And then a lot of times what happens is people in the chat will contribute. They'll either say something about their experience. We've even had it was oh my gosh, I just went blank on his name. Dr.
Nelson,
yes, Dr. Nelson. And we've even had doctors come in and
health coaches and nutritionists, and definitely. So Chris wants to know, is there some accreditation to obtain? I am going through. Yes. Now Renee has already gotten a certification through a different organization. And we're doing this for our own education, and we have been doing it for over a year. I happen to also now be going through a coursework to get accredited. And so it just as happens to be that we're using the textbook that is part of the coursework that I'm going through. So I'm glad of that. So, all righty. Let's see. I'm single with food stamps.
Well, I'm a champ at eating cheap.
Still listen in. Absolutely. And, Amy, one of our friends, Amy, she's the same way. And so when she was first changing her diet, she was in a wheelchair and had really bad POTS, which is posterior orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, where she stood up, she felt like she was going to pass out because the blood pressure would just drop. And so she knew she needed to do something. And so she actually started out with microwaving hot dogs and microwaving her eggs. And that's what she was able to do. And with her wheelchair, she could reach her microwave, and she could not cook. She couldn't stand up and cook. And she had a really bad health at the beginning. So she now has ditched her wheelchair. She can walk, she can go out and do stuff. She can stand and make herself food. And so it's definitely possible to make changes regardless, of what your situation is. You just do the best you can.
Yep.
Yep.
That is so true.
Yep. All right. So who wants to start reading?
I can go ahead and start.
All righty.
If I stumble too much, somebody else can take over. But
no problem. Right, so I know lots of big words.
And we are on page 146 for anybody that happens to be following along. And we're in section 3.6, which is type 1 diabetes. So type 1 diabetes results from autoimmune destruction of the pancreatic beta cells and an almost complete loss of insulin production. This results in hyperglycemia with its concomitant symptoms and signs, and if left untreated, can lead to diabetic ketoacidosis and death. All patients with type 1 diabetes will require some form of insulin therapy. For every year a person with either type 1 diabetes or type 2 diabetes has an HbA1c over 7.5%, they lose 100 days of life. This equates to 70% of people in England and Wales with type 1 diabetes ending their year on the 23rd of September.
I don't understand what that's saying. Do you guys understand what that's saying?
No.
Okay, so because this doesn't make sense to me. So for every year, a person with either type 1 or type 2 diabetes has so for every year.
I think I know what it means, maybe.
You lose 100 days of life for every year that your hemoglobin A1C is higher than that.
So I think what they're trying to do is equate those 100 days. If you're talking about whether you pass on December 31st, then you know what I'm saying, then your end of life would actually be the 23rd of September. So you'd be short that much time.
Right. Wow. So what I think what it's saying is that if everybody in England and Wales was due to die December 31st, if they're healthy, 70% of them would die on September 23rd instead, if they have this higher hemoglobin A1C. That was weird the way they stated it.
That is definitely weird. So
at the beginning of the statement, though, it says for every year a person.
Yes.
So if you have the diabetes for 10 years, you actually lose 1,000 days.
1,000 days.
So every year it would be like you would lose that whole last couple of months of the year. But
so it accumulates, and it's sad because so many people are diagnosed as young people. That's why, do you remember that it used to be that many times the type 1 diabetics would only live into their 30s, maybe, if they were lucky?
Right. And by then they were already blind. They were already looking at amputations. There was no great quality of life.
Right.
Before CGMs and before thank goodness we have
insulin and exogenous insulin. It was palliative care before they realized that exogenous insulin could help them. There was nothing they could do for them. Yeah. Okay, so that does make sense now.
Okay, but that, as soon as I read that sentence, I was like, that does not make sense. I had to think about that.
Right. But it's interesting because this is now talking about more currently. So I'm assuming that it was worse before they had insulin.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is around 8 years of loss of life for someone with type 1 diabetes. Clearly, the importance of achieving normal glycemia in diabetes is paramount. Type 1 diabetes not only reduces length, I think that's of life, it negatively impacts quality of life too. In a questionnaire of 180 people with type 1 diabetes between the ages of 18 and 35, the following conclusions were drawn. Although participants demonstrated appropriate self-management behaviors and moderate self-efficacy on the diabetes quality of life instrument, they reported high dissatisfaction with the burden that diabetes places on their families and the amount of time it takes to manage their diabetes. Quality of life was significantly positively correlated with the fear of hypoglycemia and fear of complications. Quality of life was significantly negatively correlated with self-efficacy. These observations suggest that as fear of hypoglycemia and fear of complications increase, quality of life decreases, and as self-efficacy increases, so does the quality of life.
So I wonder how much insulin pumps have helped with that.
That probably a lot. Before, like, I used to work with a nurse who was absolutely amazing, and she had type 1 diabetes when she was little, the juvenile onset. And she
I think it's your mic, Renee. You were sounding like you were a bit in a tunnel. Let's see if we can fix it.
This is talking about England, and I wonder how often or how much the NHS in England, because a lot of people that's their healthcare system. Like if they actually have insulin pumps over there. I'm not sure if these statistics here, if this study was only in England, but the prior paragraph, it was saying that 70% of people in England and Wales, it was talking about the ending their life on the 23rd of September, meaning, their lifespan.
They have shortened lives.
But it was talking about England and Wales. And so I wonder, I think availability of these things would affect the outcome too, because I think in the United States, you're more likely to have access to it than you might in some other countries.
Yeah. I would think that in first world countries is probably a lot better, but I'd just be curious too, to know what the rate of type 1 diabetes is in other countries, third world countries. Chris says, Dr. Chafee, I believe, stated there are teenagers getting liver transplants because yes, there are, because insulin resistance is from chronic excessive carbohydrate consumption, we're feeding the kids garbage and too many carbs, and they are getting adult diseases. It's the same thing with kids are getting type 2 diabetes. And and it's interesting. So my daughter's, pregnant with her first child. She's the youngest. She's 29. And she went, they were here visiting with my sister in California. They went back home to Washington. But when she was here, she must have got some sort of food poisoning or something. But she had this upper abdominal pain. She was vomiting. She couldn't keep out fluids. So my son-in-law took her to the ER. And they did an upper abdominal ultrasound on her. And she was saying that the tech was surprised that she doesn't have fatty liver disease.
Really?
And he was telling her that. He was saying, most everybody that I ultrasound has fatty liver disease.
Wow.
That is sad, because
most people, oh my gosh.
Is my audio better now?
It seems like it's better now to me. Please.
The book was sitting on my microphone on my laptop.
Oh.
But I remember when I started as a nurse, I started in the PICU. We never, ever saw fatty liver disease in kids. Ever.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Good evening. Well, working as a GI nurse, I saw a lot of it. But it was when we didn't see patients under age 16 in my department, but I think it's getting worse. I was there for almost a decade, and it was definitely trending. Like there was more and more people with fatty liver disease. And, the only advice that the doctors gave was lose weight. But that was it. And if they said, well, how? They'd refer them to a dietitian. So what's the dietitian going to do? The dietitian is going to put them on a lot of grains. They're going to follow the My Plate recommendations. And the problem is that it's fat in the liver does not come from dietary fat. Fat in the liver comes from excess insulin that drives, you got to do the insulin. Something's got to happen with all that extra glucose. It drives de novo lipogenesis, which is extra fat production, and it's stored in the liver. It's the insulin, it's the carbs that drive that insulin up. And so Dr. Sivis, in his practice, he did a study with thousands and thousands. I think he said it was something like over 12,000 people in his practice, because he has them go on diets for bariatric surgery. And he actually did before and after scans of the liver. And he saw that on average, with a low carb or no carb diet, you can reverse fatty liver in 7 to 9 days by getting the carbs out of your diet. It's that quick. Mm-hmm. So the body wants to maintain homeostasis. The body wants to be functional. And so if you take away what's causing the problem, it's going to correct itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just so surprised. And of course, from all the years working in GI, I'm like, I never once heard that from any of our GI doctors, that get rid of the carbs in your fatty liver, disease will reverse quickly. Never. So let's see. I
think it might be type 5 now.
Fatty liver showing up in children actually helped doctors understand that it was not only alcohol. Exactly. Yes, It was sugar and carbohydrates. Exactly. Because it used to be, there was the alcoholic fatty liver disease, and now there's the non-alcoholic. I've heard that ADD, ADHD is classified as type 4. And because Alzheimer's is like type 3. So now there's type 4. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ooh. They just assumed that when an adult had fatty liver, they were alcoholic, right? If a person said they did not drink, they did not believe them. And that is absolutely true. Mm-hmm. Coming from working in GI. And of course, in the hospital, what do they tell you in the hospital? The patients underreport how much drinking and how much smoking they're doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if they had fatty liver, then we thought that they were lying about how much they were drinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that has to be very frustrating. And I know I've heard Dr. Berry and others, who actually practiced, telling about like how their patients would swear that they were following their instructions.
Yeah.
But then they didn't lose weight or whatever, and that the doctors would just think that the people were lying. But then it was when they tried it for themselves and they realized, this doesn't work. And they were right.
Right. Yep. So Dr. Berry mentioned type 4 diabetes in passing last night. Well, but you know what? Because of insulin resistance being such an underlying cause for so many things, we could have fatty liver as type 5 diabetes. You can go on and on and on as all the different things that are impacted by the same underlying issue. It's,
I'll have to watch that Dr. Berry episode. I missed him, missed his last live. I usually try to catch him.
Yeah.
But, wow.
All
right. So in this section, we will look at the use of therapeutic carbohydrate restriction in type 1 diabetes to control glycemia, reduce diabetic and insulin treatment-related complications, and improve health and the quality of life. And that is what we're all looking for, regardless.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Pathophysiology. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease where progressive destruction of the beta cells of the pancreas occurs over a variable period of time. It can present at any age, but is commoner in childhood, with 2 peaks at ages 4 through 7 and then 10 through 14 years old. There is no known causative agent, and multiple etiologies have been proposed: genetics, lack of vitamin D, milk casein, infection, and geographical location.
I'm
heard any of those.
Yeah, I'm suspecting that there's some epigenetics involved in this, and also the gut.
Yeah.
You know, because so much autoimmune disease reverses when you heal the gut. You know, if you think about it, when you've got leaky, increased gut permeability, and you've got proteins floating out into your bloodstream that are never meant to be there, you're going to end up with symptoms. So, Dr. Sophia Clemens, who's with Paleomedica in Hungary, they do tons of clinical trials. She's got a really interesting case study with a 19-year-old guy who had type 1 diabetes. They caught him fairly early, but with him eating a high-fat meat-based, just beef, high-fat beef, they were able to get his beta cells working again.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's definitely possible. Obviously, there needs to be more studies done, but that was super encouraging that they were able to actually get his beta cells, because the doctors will tell you, like, if you got type 1 diabetes, you're stuck with it for life. If your beta cells don't work, they don't work. But at least if you catch it early enough, it may be possible to actually, get them working.
That is very hopeful. I didn't realize that.
It says this book is a strange beast. The Kindle version costs more than paper, and the paperback is really expensive.
Yeah, it is. I think I did price the Kindle version because I have just about all of my books on Kindle. Because if I didn't, there would be no room in my house for me, because I would have so many books.
Oh yeah. But, yeah. Leaky gut, oxalate crystals, carb-based biome is so prevalent. Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. I read a quote, or I saw a quote in my lecture that I watched today. I wrote it down. Let me get out here so I can tell you who said it. But my latest notes. Okay. No, it was in the previous quote. Let's see. Okay. So this is from a guy named Bruce Ames. And I guess he wrote a paper on dietary pesticides. He said 99, and actually his title says 99.9% of pesticides consumed by people are made by the plants. Made by the plants. So you talk about pesticides.
Wow.
Yeah. That only 0.1% of the pesticides is from like the stuff we spray on it.
Well, and that makes sense. And I mean, I've heard Dr. Chapey talk about this, where, like the plants are trying to kill you. And I mean, that's their defense mechanism. They have to repel animals and people from eating them because their survival depends on it.
Right.
So, I mean, but I'm surprised that it's 99.9%. I would have thought that, the man-made pesticides would have a higher percentage.
You would think, yeah.
I was shocked when I learned that. Like, that is insane that, we hear so much about glyphosates and about pesticides and stuff and how bad it is, but we're really only getting the damage of 0.1% of that, and everything else comes from the actual plant itself.
Yeah.
Makes you want to go out and eat a salad.
Yeah, right.
Just kidding.
Yeah, really crazy. And I mean, in our livers, a healthy liver can handle some. It's what it's designed to do is to help us with toxins, but we overload all the time.
Well, yeah, we don't give it a chance to clean itself out. I mean, that's a bad way to say it, but I mean, we don't give it a chance to our digestion and everything. It doesn't get a chance to rest, reset. Our insulin levels in general don't go back down, and so it's just terrible on our bodies overall.
Oh yeah. And there's phytates, and there's all sorts of different poisons that they produce, and there's a lot of a lot of them are carcinogens.
Yeah.
So
all right, so managing the patient. Background. In the pre-insulin era, the only form of treatment for type 1 diabetes was the carbohydrate-restricted diet, which showed variable success depending on the proportions of protein and fat. Once insulin was discovered, this allowed an increase in carbohydrate consumption, eventually increasing to more than 50% of energy intake in the 1960s when low-fat diets were introduced. While the use of insulin in patients with type 1 diabetes has prolonged their lives, the increase in carbohydrates and increased doses of insulin have caused a number of related conditions. These include greater risks of hypoglycemia, hyperglycemia, diabetic keto, isn't that right?
Diabetic ketoacidosis.
Yeah, and obesity. Added to this are the ongoing increased cardiovascular complications associated with diabetes, which are related in a linear fashion to increasing HbA1 concentrations. Maintaining glucose concentrations in a normal range remains a lifelong challenge for many patients. Data from type 1 diabetes registries show that only 17% of children and adolescents and 21% of adult patients achieve HbA1c targets of less than 7.5% and 7% respectively. Oh my gosh. And that is such a high target. Of course, we've talked about that before, but wow. So most don't even meet the high targets. Despite the introduction of newer insulins, greater use of insulin pumps, and increased glucose monitoring with continuous glucose monitors, no improvement in these data has been shown over an 8-year period. Well, that answers that question.
That's very sad.
Yeah.
Even though we've made huge strides in how to treat it, it really hasn't made a difference overall.
I wonder if it's just been an excuse to eat more junk.
Well, it's kind of like
my insulin pump will take care of it.
Yeah, well, it's like my mom with type 2. I mean, she was on insulin, and they just said as long as she planned for what she was going to eat, she could eat what she wanted.
Yeah, and it's ignoring the fact that too much insulin has its own set of problems. And so they eat more. They're probably like, okay, cool. I don't have to worry so much about what I eat. My pump's just going to make sure that I have enough insulin. But yet, so you eat more carbs, you eat more sugar, you eat more junk, and you get more insulin pumped into you. But that insulin is part of the problem.
I almost wonder if it was made too easy. So remember the days, Lynn, when we actually had to count the carbs and then figure out the insulin to those carbs. And now they just can poke their button on their pump and it'll give them whatever insulin they need. So it's so much easier. They don't have to think about it anymore. So they can eat whatever they want because their pump's gonna, I think that maybe that made it even worse, not better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Someone with DKA has very high blood sugars.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, type 2 diabetics really are not at risk for DKA unless they're on specific types of blood diabetic medication that can really lower your insulin levels too low. But most of the time, it's the type 1 diabetics that are most at risk. So
patients are taught to match insulin dosage with carbohydrate intake. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Yet few are able to achieve adequate control. A typical patient's journey includes high blood glucose variability and poor control, as shown in the glucometer downloads from 2 patients shown in Figure 3, 16A and B. Constant blood glucose fluctuations mean greater risk of severe hypoglycemic episodes, which often lead to rebound hyperglycemia and greater risks of diabetic ketoacidosis.
Yeah. And remember, I was earlier on in this chapter that it talked about how if you have a blood glucose spike of 150 or more, which is probably more prevalent in these people and people that have poorly controlled blood sugar, type 2 diabetics, that you do endothelial damage. And it takes 6 days to repair the damage from one spike.
That's right. I remember that was very shocking.
That was shocking. And so if they're constantly having spikes that are huge spikes up and down, they're never getting the endothelium nets of your vasculature, right? So you wonder why they end up having all these vascular complications related to their diabetes.
They're just never giving their body a chance to heal.
It's never healing. Yeah.
No rest.
So that's why the variability. And so even though you may have a specific like hemoglobin A1C level, but if it's got all these spikes and everything, that's not good. So even if they're at their, the threshold that they want to reach of 6 or 6.5, if there's like a ton of spikes up and down, they're still doing damage to their bodies. Yeah. Let's see. It says it's funny when you get blood work and the GP is like, you have ketones in your blood. Your response is, I would hope so. Exactly.
Yes. That's I had a friend who just recently got blood work back, and he told me that his I don't think it was blood though. I think it was his urine but it showed ketones in his urine. And so his doctor expressed some concern about it, but he looked it up. And of course I told him too that, it was nothing that I said, you're actually in ketosis. That's the good thing. So, and he's not diabetic. I mean, he's in general a very healthy person, but it's just funny how the doctors, they get that, I guess because it has the word keto in it, that they think it's terrible.
DKA. They think it's DKA. They think there's concern for DKA, which they should not be concerned about that. They should know better. I'm sorry. I'm hyper. I'm hyper, maybe not judgmental, but I do hold doctors to a higher standard. They should know that.
Yeah.
If we as nurses know that, they should know that.
Right.
Yeah.
Big difference.
With no salt, blood pressure was in the 170s. Well, yeah, it's like, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's in other words, the advice that you're given there again is like the total opposite of what you should do. So it kind of makes you think.
Yep.
Like, are they trying to kill us?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. So we have aims of care. So anybody following along, we're on page 147.
As a nurse, you should know what you know, and what they should know is a very you'd be surprised at how much nurses know.
Nurses know a lot, and any good doctor will credit the nurses.
But they should know more than us because they've been through medical school. So that's my hope. Like, so I was saying, if we know this, they really should know this. Yeah. You live with a nurse. Yeah. So nurses run the hospital, right?
They do.
Yes, we do.
Yes. So, all right. You want me to read?
Yeah, you can go ahead now.
Okay. So we are on, where do we leave off again?
Page 147, aims of care.
Aims of care. Okay. So the ultimate aim in treating patients with type 1 diabetes is to achieve glucose concentration and hemoglobin A1C as close as possible to normal, reducing hypoglycemia, reduce blood glucose variability, and improve quality of life. A small percentage of people can achieve normal glycemia using a guideline diet that is high in carbohydrates. I don't even know how they do that. For the vast majority of people, though, carbohydrate restriction will be the most appropriate dietary contribution to normal glycemia. The evidence to date suggests that the lower number of carbohydrates, the better the blood glucose control. We kind of go, duh, right?
Yeah.
As highlighted in the studies discussed below, there is even a possibility of inducing a remission of type 1 diabetes. So I'm wondering if that's one of the ones that I was talking about with Dr. Clemens. Many diabetologists have in the past observed the patients who achieved control of their glucose concentrations soon after diagnosis enter a honeymoon phase, during which they need little or no insulin for extended periods. It now seems possible from the studies that by using therapeutic carbohydrate restrictions soon after diagnosis, that the honeymoon phase could be prolonged indefinitely in some patients, thereby achieving remission. I wonder if that's what happened with that guy.
Yeah. And I thought often, I've heard of that honeymoon phase, but I'm like, what are the mechanics behind that? Like, does somehow their beta cells just have this sudden revival for some reason. I don't.
Well,
I've
it's
never quite
weird.
understood.
It's weird that it's soon after diagnosis, because that could vary for each individual as far as how far they are into their disease. I definitely would be very interested in knowing a little more about that. I wish they went into a little more detail on that one.
Yeah, it would be nice if maybe they do talk about it some. I don't know.
It'd be nice.
Or maybe we could always ask ChatGPT or something. Of course, who knows what you might get.
See if it knows. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's a reference or something somewhere in here.
Actually, I think on the next page, there actually is evidence of the use of therapeutic carbohydrate restrictions. I think that it's coming.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. So lifestyle related considerations. So lifestyle management is fundamental to holistic health. Dietary management is the most significant strategy in type 1 diabetes management, and physiological concentrations of glucose can be routinely achieved with therapeutic carbohydrate restriction in particular. So exercise. Type 1 diabetes management extends to physical activity, which should be thought of as is integral in managing this condition. The gut, liver, brain axis of glucose control plays a major role in glucose metabolism, but the contribution of muscle to glucose regulation should not be underestimated. Exercise increases GLUT4 transporter translocation to the cell surface and consequent glucose uptake independent of insulin. Now, that is in the mitochondria. And GLUT4 is the muscle transporter version. Skeletal muscle is one of the few organs to increase in mass as a result of regular exercise, and this increases the number of GLUT4 transporters and hence the ability of the body to take up glucose. In cases of high blood glucose, an alternative to insulin injection is physical activity to increase the absorption of glucose. In addition to its ability to increase the rate of glucose uptake into muscle cells and the ability to metabolize glucose anaerobically in muscle, glucose is the only fuel available for aerobic respiration. And even though it is a poor net gain in ATP, the rate of reaction in anaerobic conditions is 100 times that of aerobic respiration. The effect of this is a relative 5-fold increase in glucose use. So it is good to encourage a mix of aerobic and anaerobic activity regularly throughout the day where possible in people with type 1 diabetes. That makes sense. I went to nursing school, and when I was getting my bachelor's with a guy who was type 1 diabetic, and he would ride his bike to class. He was always focusing on exercise, and he had really good control. And he would say, I need to go exercise because he'd check his blood sugar. And yeah. So sunlight, for people who live in temperate and northern latitudes, it is good practice to recommend oral vitamin D supplements for the winter months. There is a wide range of dose recommendations, with 1,000 to 4,000 IU being the safe upper limit, depending on a number of factors, including age. I take more than that.
I take more than that too.
That's probably what's been tested. I'm assuming, yeah. I mean, and I had
reduced, because I take 10,000 international units a day, and I had reduced it not last year, but the year before during the summer months, thinking that, okay, well, because my levels were like at 100, like a little, I think it was 101 actually, something like that. And so I was like, well, okay, I can just not take it then. And so I went without taking it, and then resumed in the fall, but I guess I didn't catch up or whatever. And I kind of had a tough time, just kind of with the winter blues kind of thing. I guess that was 3 years ago actually, but I don't know, time goes so fast. But anyway, the whole point is, I just found that for me, when I take the higher dosage, I would love to just be out in the sun all the time. I'm a sun baby. I mean, I'm a sun worshiper, but I mean, right now I work during the day, so I can't do that.
Yeah. But you felt better when you were taking it? Yeah.
Much. And I just take it all year. I don't reduce the dosage. I don't stop it in the summer. I just keep taking it. So there's no telling what my level is, but
Yeah.
I feel.
Well, you should probably get it tested just to check it and see.
Yeah, I had it tested last, I think it was year before last when I had it tested the last time. And it was, I think it was still like a little over 100. It was like maybe 101. It was about the same. I think it was like at 101. I think it's what it was.
I mean, last time I had mine tested, it was 99. So I'm taking a break from my vitamin D for a little while and let it get a little down, a little lower. I just read that if it's a little high, you can have issues with sleep because it does affect your sleep, your wake sleep cycle. And I had been having trouble getting to sleep at night. So I figured, well, let's see if I could get it lower and see if that makes a difference. And
maybe I should try reducing it again. And now that we're moving into spring, I mean, very soon before we know it, it's going to be spring. Maybe if I take a 10,000 unit every other day, like just reduce the amount.
Right.
Mine was toxic. I was taking 10,000 units a day and I was laying out in the sun for an hour a day. And my last one last year, this year was still high. It was still in that really high, like you need to lay off. And I had gone from 10,000 a day down to like twice a week. And now that it's winter, I went back up to 3, but I'll bet you that I'm still too high. And
like how high did it get?
I can't remember, but it was, it definitely, he told me, he was like, Renee, you got to lay off the vitamin D. Your numbers are higher than I've ever seen, which is quite interesting. I wasn't too worried about it because I wasn't worried about my levels because when I had gastroparesis and I was not absorbing any food, my levels were always 0. My vitamin D and my vitamin B were always 0, no matter how much I took.
How can you live?
I couldn't absorb it. Oh no, I wasn't living. I was in the hospital. I was admitted for
crazy.
Admitted for dehydration and stuff. But so I was like, no, I'm going to take a lot because I know I don't absorb it. And guess what? Carnivore, I absorb all my vitamins now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the vitamins, your gut is healing.
Yep.
Yeah. So Southeast Michigan taking 4,000 plus the K2. Yeah.
Yeah, I take K2 as well.
Dark at 5 p.m. and fighting to stay awake. Well, it's good. You probably have your circadian rhythm's probably good. That's excellent. Yeah.
Usually by 6 o'clock, I'm like, is it time to go to bed yet?
Well, you know what I do is I start to get sleepy and then I push through it because I look at the clock and I go, it's too early. But yeah, that's probably not a good idea. We're supposed to be having, it's normal to feel sleepy when it gets dark out.
Yeah. See, I've had this conversation probably with you guys, and I know I have with my daughter and couple of other friends about the human body, or as humans, we just did not evolve to be forced into these unnatural schedules.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that's a big part of people's issues too. And of course, everybody knows, but people who work shift work, for example, like third shift, it really messes them up. Yeah. And I just think for prolonged periods of time, we can handle almost anything for a short period of time, but we're forced in the wintertime to function as though it were summer. We have to have the same productivity, get up at the same time, go to bed at the same time. And it's hard. I admit that I tend to struggle in the winter. It's better. It's been better since I've been carnivore, but still, I can tell a difference just in the season. I don't even know what I would do if I lived in Alaska. I'd probably just I don't know. I would just sleep all the time. I don't know. Yeah. It'd be terrible.
But the vitamin D, obviously you don't want to get it too low. It's important to make sure that it's high enough. It helps with all sorts of things, but says it, vitamin D has shown to improve blood glucose and hemoglobin A1C, and decrease insulin resistance in type 2 diabetes. And low vitamin D concentrations are associated with the etiology of type 1 diabetes. Now, I didn't know that. That's interesting. I wonder why.
My level, Lynn, was 123.
Okay, so
and then I
were
dropped.
you having symptoms
Nope,
of
I dropped it to
vitamin D
94, and now I'm at 80.
Yeah, I have. I've read, and I haven't done a deep dive into it, but I've read that a lot of people can get higher than that and be fine, and that there's only certain people. And I'd be curious to know, like, what is the difference between someone who has an issue with higher levels of vitamin D and somebody who has no problem.
I would have never known. Like, I felt great,
Mm-hmm.
and I love laying in the sun. Like, it is my favorite thing in the world. I feel like it's like my therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do. When I became carnivore and I was told I could lay out in the sun again, and I stopped believing all of the cancer stuff about the sun, I became a new person.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And I don't take vitamin D in the summertime, and I do lay out in the sun as well. And my vitamin D levels were great. No problem. I don't sunburn anymore.
And I don't either.
I used to sunburn super quickly with my fair, complexion. And no sunburning anymore. So that's good. Light deprivation syndrome, I think hibernation. Yeah, I know. I live in the north too. So I'm down in California right now, but I live in Washington State. So totally get that. Oh, Bill Cook is here. Hey, Bill. Hey, better late than never.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so that's sunlight. So pharmacotherapy, and again, realize this is a medical textbook, so they do talk about medications. So insulin is effectively a hormone replacement therapy in the context of its lack in type 1 diabetes. The clinical challenge is to provide insulin in the amount needed and with effective timing to balance the effect of diet on glucose control. In the short term, the issue of hypoglycemia is significant. In the longer term, a failure to keep glucose concentrations in the physiological range will expose the person with type 1 diabetes with the risk of complications, which I'm assuming is very similar to someone with type 2 diabetes. Mm-hmm. We have these pages of these graphs here, which I did not copy. And of course, with my blur, maybe you guys should show it because my blur makes it so that you can't see it. But these are basically blood glucose ranges for over time. Is that right?
Yep.
So we'll see what it has to say about it. And I know that in his lecture on the course that I'm doing, he showed these graphs. And these are glucometer downloads from patients with type 1 diabetes. So they show large blood glucose variability and poor control when using standard dietary advice. And then if you want to show the other one on that next page so that people can see it, that one in comparison is a glucometer readings from a type 1 diabetic patient who has established good blood glucose control by practicing a therapeutic carbohydrate restricted diet. So what a difference.
Mm-hmm. All over the place to like all in one
place, almost. Very, well,
very, very consistent.
Yeah. And I mean, they're still having some spikes, but it's so much better than before.
They're not as big of spikes either.
Nope. Yeah, exactly. These other spikes were huge. So, okay. So basal insulin adjustment. Let me just look at the time. I think we have time for one more section. Do you want to read the last section, Renee, so you can get some reading in?
Whichever type of diet is chosen, the fundamentals of type 1 diabetes management are to establish the timing and amount of basal insulin when a person is in a fasted state. It can be done in one 24-hour fast or two 12-hour fasts that cover the full 24-hour period. Even though most basal insulins have a 24-hour time of action, insulin sensitivity differs throughout the day, and splitting the dose might be advised. People who use pumps can refine their basal dose to cover the times of insulin can cover the times of insulin resistance and sensitivity hourly throughout the day if needed, and a pump system will benefit those who find basal control difficult to achieve. Once a flat trace in the physiological range has been established, then the person has flexibility over eating times and will bolus for carbohydrates and protein as needed. Time-restricted eating can benefit people with type 1 diabetes, and a carbohydrate-restricted diet facilitates this process by removing the need for snacking, which is typically needed with high volumes of insulin. Time-restricted eating has many benefits in type 1 diabetes management as it improves insulin sensitivity, allows for cell repair through autophagy, and means less time is spent with dysregulated physiology caused by peripheral insulin. People who are approaching therapeutic carbohydrate restriction and who have diabetes complications will be advised by their clinicians to transition at a pace suited to their existing complications. Typically, this involves an extended transition phase over weeks to months.
And so this is interesting because, with diabetes education, the recommendation is to eat like every 2 hours. And so I've definitely had a lot of diabetics say, is it safe to fast when you're diabetic? Is it safe to go long periods without eating? And yes, it is. It is safe. And I know that we have the YouTube channel from Brisket Boomers, Amy Perrin. I don't know if you guys have watched her, but she's type 1 diabetic. And she actually does coaching and education for type 1 diabetics. And she has got her insulin needs way, way down to maybe 5 or 6 units a day, something like that. So even if you can't completely get off of insulin, to get it minimized is really helpful. So so we can stop there since we're at the bottom of the hour, but I wanted to share something with you guys. And Renee, you may know this already, but I was, as I'm going through and learning stuff, I'm like interested to share some stuff. Okay. So they were talking about insulin, and we're not necessarily talking about diabetics here. We're talking about just everybody, because it's often recommended, check a fasting insulin level and just to see where you're at when it comes to insulin. And so so first of all, it was interesting, and it makes sense. It was interesting to learn that your insulin levels go in little waves and big waves. So timing it is hard because it goes in these little waves, but the little waves goes up and then it goes down and then it goes up. So getting a consistent value is really hard because like 5 minutes could determine whether you hit the peak of a wave or the trough of a wave or somewhere in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. So, and what machine is used and how the machine is calibrated can impact your results, the location of where you get it done. There's all these factors, right? So it's fine to get it done. That's fine. But it's just know that there's a lot of variability that can happen in getting a fasting insulin level done. But what was recommended as even a better idea of insulin resistance is to get a postprandial fasting insulin. No, not a postprandial fasting, but a postprandial insulin checked 90 minutes after eating your main meal, which can be challenging because you have to get timed on the lab. So this is challenging, and it's why people don't do it. Yeah, it's why people don't do it. But they said it's so much better because your insulin normally will spike when you eat a meal, but then at 90 minutes it should be coming back down below, I think it was 30, and then it'll go back down to normal, but it should be below 30 at like 90 minutes. And so if you want to know if you're having a problem with insulin, if it doesn't come back down within that period of time, that's a better indication that there's a problem, because what your insulin's doing with fasting is one thing, but if it's not responding appropriately, it's not coming down appropriately after you've eaten, that's like the more true sign of insulin resistance. So I thought that was really interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
And I can understand why it's not really widely discussed, because timing, getting the timing on that could be challenging, even if you have a lab appointment, but I would imagine that if you're somewhere around the 90-minute mark, and as long as you mark like when you eat, okay, I finished eating at this time, and you mark it on there like other timed labs, that at least it can give you an idea of whether or not your insulin response is okay.
But what if you did it like, do they like for own your labs and the ones like the companies where you can take it yourself? You could do that and time it Right.
Well, do you actually do your own finger stick with On Your Labs, or do you take it to LabCorp?
I think you go to like LabCorp or something.
So you'd have to find one where you actually do your own stick. And I don't know if they have those.
I've never done On Your Labs, but I'm thinking that there's some of them that, depending on what the test is, you can do finger pricks, but I may be wrong.
You'd probably have to call the lab and say, I'm doing this timed insulin test, and make an appointment and make sure they know that, go in and get it done. With me, timing it would be so fun because it takes a while to get my vein.
Oh, man.
Yeah, because my veins are deeper than they appear. They run away from the needle, but it usually takes a few tries. But anyways, I wanted to share that. That was interesting information.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know if Renee, you guys studied the Kraft graphs. The Kraft was this. I don't remember if he was a doctor or just a scientist, but he studied insulin. And there's these. He did the glucose tolerance test, and with the insulin tests. In addition, so he could track the rise and the fall of the glucose and the rise and the fall of the insulin. And there's like 5 or 6 different graphs where it shows different people's insulin responses to their blood sugar elevation. So it was really interesting to see you could really see which ones are dysfunctional and which ones are normal. We have a late arrival, Thomas Garcia.
This is the place to be.
Yeah, we are just wrapping things up. But because you're here, and we're going to be doing this hopefully again next week. We do this whenever we feel like it. I will just go ahead and share with anyone who's new. You guys hold the book up because I'm all blurred. So this is a study group. We are going through the ketogenic medical textbook. We're a bunch of science nerds. And Renee and I are nurses, and Carrie's a data analyst, and we are science nerds, and we're going through this textbook. And we're reading and discussing as we go. So this is a place, if you're a science nerd and you want to learn about ketosis and how your body works. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. And we try to meet every Tuesday. I'm a history nerd. Oh, I love that.
Oh, I am too. Actually, I collect old history books. I started collecting them when I was about 13, and I would find them at like antique shops and yard sales and stuff.
Right. And I wish I had appreciated history more when I was younger. I've come to appreciate it a lot more as I've aged. Chris, awesome. Thank you, ladies, for allowing me in your study group. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. No, you were not dismissive.
Oh, we love it.
Love it. Absolutely.
Yeah, we love audience participation.
Yeah, and honestly, so many, we don't always understand everything, and it's really helpful to get feedback. And we're getting better. At the beginning, we're like, I don't understand what this means. But because, honestly, in nursing school, we don't learn any of this.
Nope.
Yeah. So specifically World War II, World War I, the Civil War. Oh, awesome. Okay, so if you like war, and so here's a question too. Do you like metal music? Because we all like metal. And if
we do.
But if you do or you don't like metal, you may like, if you like history, you may like the metal group Sabaton.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So are you familiar with Sabaton? So all of their music is based on true war history. So they are a Swedish metal, country here. Well, if you like, they're not hardcore metal. They are like symphonic metal. And they also have a history channel. So they have so and we're almost, it sounds really cool. It is really cool. So we're just out of the Christmas season. Go look them up. I'm going to put the name of them. I'm going to go look them up. Go look them up. The name is Sabaton, and just watch their video called The Christmas Truce. Okay. I put it in the.
I saw that.
That's an example.
That is incredible.
It's incredible.
Yes.
So they have their regular channel where they do their songs, and they're all based on history. And then they have a history channel where they go into a lot more detail on the history of their songs. And I cried Oh, you've heard of the Christmas truce. Yeah, it's a real event.
Mm-hmm.
It was a real event. World War I. And where both sides put down their arms and they celebrated Christmas together in the battlefield. And then they went back to fighting. It was really tragic. Let's see. I'm a mile from Willow Run Airport. If you are into World War II, B-24 bomber factory is there. Yeah, my dad is a World War II veteran. He's passed away. 1914. They have a 1914 video. Oh yeah, 1914, and they have another video. I think it's called 1914. Yeah. So check them out. There's a song. Oh, thank you, Patricia. There's a song that made me cry. So I forget the name of it, but it was a true story about this B-52. I think it was a B-52 bomber. It may have been one of the earlier versions, but Eurovision. Yes, of course. Yes, love Eurovision. But it was this bomber that got really damaged. They were over Germany in World War II, and they were flying in formation with a bunch of other airplanes, and they got really heavily damaged, and they couldn't keep up with the other planes. And I think their guy at the very back of the plane that had the machine gun, he got killed, and there was big gaps in the plane, and they were really seriously damaged. And so they were expecting that they were just going to get shot down. This German pilot in this fighter jet came up next to them, and they thought they were completely done for. And the pilots looked each other in the eye, and they were kind of nervous, what's going to happen? And this German pilot stayed with them and flew them to safety, because they weren't going to, no one was going to shoot them down with him escorting them into safety. Well, the thing is that decades later, the pilot of the American plane, the pilot of the German plane found each other, and they met each other, and they became really close friends. And there's some video at the end of Sabaton's video of their meeting each other, and it continues the story. And then later, after Charlie Brown's story, yes, it was Charlie Brown's story. And Charlie Brown was the American pilot. It was a B-17. Yeah, I thought it was before the B-52s. Yeah, it was a B-17. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But then later, after they died, both of them passed away really close to each other. And then Sabaton created this song in their honor and to tell their story. Mm-hmm. The German man's grandson heard the song on the radio, and he played it for his mom because that was her father. And Sabaton invited them to a concert, and they got to meet Sabaton. So yeah, it was really such an amazing story. I was bawling watching it. Sadly, my Swedish grandfather was Nazi. Oh, wow. Horrible to find out. After his death, he helped Deutschland get heavy water from Norway. Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, our grandparents, a lot of them in the United States we had relatives that were slave owners.
Well, here's the thing. People, Sabaton, I just try not to judge too harshly because it was a different time and different perspectives, so I just try not to.
I just spelled it out for you. Sabaton is the name of the group. So cool. Awesome. We'll see. We like history too.
Yes. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. All right, good deal. Well, thank you guys for showing up. We are really greatly appreciating it. And see, even though we're science nerds, we have more in common than just
I'm just a nerd in general.
Just a nerd in general. Exactly. Awesome. Oh, my husband's here. Good job tonight. Enjoyed learning from you ladies. Oh, good to see you here. That's my husband with his pilot headset on. Awesome. Good. Nice. Great seeing you. Very good. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, we try to do this on Tuesdays, and sometimes there's traveling and sometimes there's holidays. And so we usually try to tell you when we're taking a break, but it's,
sometimes somebody gets their wires crossed.
Yeah. You make an appointment or Carrie's going to a concert.
Or a dog eats
I'm from Sweden. Awesome. Oh, so you're from Sweden. So you're probably like, yeah, Sabaton. Awesome.
Yeah.
I hope you like Sabaton. I also like Tommy Johansson. He was Sabaton's guitarist, and now he's, and he's independent, and he has his own metal group called Majestica. I really like him a lot too. So ate some yucky sardines. Oh my goodness. Awesome. So yeah, I love power metal. I love symphonic metal, and I do appreciate a lot of the international artists in Sweden. They've got some really good metal. Like Sweden knows how to do metal, that's for sure. So I also love Dan Bask from Brazil. He's incredible.
Fabulous.
Yeah. So all right, guys. It's been fun. So we'll plan anyone have any plans for next Tuesday, or are we good to go?
We're good. I'm good.
Okay. Awesome. Very, very good. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Glad to meet some new people, and we'll be back next Tuesday.
All right.
All right.
You all have a good week.
All righty. I almost just left the studio and